back for another one.
Yes, we are. Welcome to another episode of Glasshouse Presents Throwing Stones. We have another fantastic show for you today. Who do we have today, David?
This is another one I'm excited about. Let me tell you a little story here. One of my clients gave me a call one day and said, is it okay if I bring to you a guy as a possible client? I said, of course it's okay. He said, now, I understand. This guy is a really bright guy. He's into gaming big time. He's done some gaming stuff. He wants to do some comic stuff. And he introduced me to Alex. And before we bring him in, I just want to say Alex has turned out not to be just a terrific guy, but a wonderful client with just amazing projects to offer. Some of which have gone to Kickstarter, and I hope he'll fill us in on all that. So let's bring him in.
All righty.
Hey there.
Hello. Hi, Alex.
Hello. Hey, guys.
Hi.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thank you so much for doing the show. We appreciate you taking the time out to do this.
Yeah, this has been something I've been looking forward to. You and I haven't had a long conversation on the phone for quite a while, so this will be kind of a catch up for us too.
That's right. Well, it's been a lot going on, right?
Yeah.
Oh, for both of us.
Yeah. Well, you've had some amazing, wonderful projects coming through. It's like some guys get started with this, and no matter what their level of expertise is with gaming or film or whatever, they try to get into comics, and they kind of bungle it because they just sort of muddle their way through. But you've had a pretty laser focus on all this, and as a result, you've had some pretty damn good comics coming out. So,
well, I benefited early on actually because I admitted I didn't know what I was doing, and I made you teach me, and that was a wise move. And so had you give me all the books to read and the people to talk to and whatnot. So I think if I had tried to come in on my own and be like, oh, I'll figure it out. How hard can it be? It's just, pictures and words on a page. I think it's pretty easy to bungle because it's the more I do it, the more I discover it's an entire full-fledged art form on par with cinema, right? Just like, and we laud cinema directors as these, auteurs. And then we don't really give the same respect, perhaps, that we ought to graphic novel creators, but it's genuinely an art form.
One of the things I kind of chuckled about was last year we did a graphic novel called Warrior One with Quantum Leap's co-creator Deborah Pratt, and I was adapting a teleplay of hers into this graphic novel. And she's reading what I've done. It's like, oh my God, you've got twice the work into the comic book script that I put into the screenplay. And I said, yep, because you have a set designer, you have a cinematographer, you've got a director on set, you've got all these other people. And when it comes to comic, it's just the writer and the artist. So between the two of us, we've got to figure out just about all that stuff. And so it was quite a learning process for her. And she's a long established screenwriter, novelist, and TV director. So this was all new for her. So I get that.
I was really surprised when I started reading screenplays how light they really are in the description of the action. It'll be this incredibly complex scene, and the screenplay will say something like, the Terminator chases the heroes down the street. There are many there are many explosions, and you're like, oh, okay, that's pretty easy to When I took a screenwriting course and I kept having my screenplays sent back and said, no, you're telling the director how to do his job. Stop it. Just just focus on the dialogue. So.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Funny enough, comics have always been kind of like the redheaded stepchild of art. we're like art hobos.
Right, true.
we don't, comics never does get the respect that it deserves. So
and well, I remember early on in the process, Alex, we were discussing what can be done in 7 or 8 pages, and me sending you some of the Will Eisner stuff, like The Strange Case of Mrs. Paraffin, which is a wonderful use of 7 pages. And so, yeah, there was a lot of great stuff there. Speaking of great stuff, let's get into yours.
Oh, sure. Well, the project I'm finalizing right now is Star Spangled Squadron Volume 2. It's the sequel to the launch graphic novel that I kickstarted a couple years back. So Star Spangled Squadron tells the story of America's first superhero team in the Ascendant universe, which is the comic book universe of my role-playing game and graphic novel series. The premise of the setting is that it's more or less the present day in the real world, where people have grown up with Marvel Comics and DC Comics and whatnot, and superheroes have literally just emerged for the first time. People with superpowers have emerged for the first time. And of course, this causes a global panic, because you have these humans of mass destruction are now, wreaking havoc. And the government is trying to figure out what to do, because they realize, if they have super soldiers that can kill you with their mind, the American public's going to go nuts. They're going to be terrified. There's going to be congressional hearings. Like, it's just going to be a mess. And so there's kind of a dorky colonel who comes up with this idea that instead what they should do is they should actually put the super soldiers in silly costumes with silly code names and position them as superheroes. And so then the American public, instead of being like, oh, the US Army has a sniper that can kill you from his mind, it's like, oh man, that's Professor X-Ray. That's awesome. And then they can buy his comic books. And so they put all the superheroes in the Coast Guard, because the Coast Guard is the only armed service that can do both law enforcement and military operations overseas. So they get around posse comitatus by this loophole that the Coast Guard is exempt from it. And so overnight, the U.S. Coast Guard becomes the most powerful military force in the world. So the whole thing is done with a little bit of tongue in cheek, but it's also sort of satirical of our real world. The president is President Dick Flush, and he insists that all of the female superheroes have really sexy costumes, and only the best looking superheroes can be in the U.S. Superhero team. So there's a little bit of a satire of the absurdness of the real world, but also an attempt to take seriously how destructive it would be and the implications of what it would have for society. So I wanted to do something that wasn't just playing to the Silver Age tropes that we've all sort of grown up with, but wasn't this brutal deconstruction of the boys, but was more of like a reconstruction done with a lot of joy and love.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds absolutely fantastic. I want to read this comic now. So that's a great description.
Oh, awesome. Yeah. Well, the first one is available on Amazon. It got picked up for distribution by Baen Books, the science fiction bookseller. Or you can get it on my website. And then the second one is going to be going to PDF this month. So Catherine Renta is the letterer, and she's just finishing up the lettering. And then it'll probably hit shelves early next year in print form.
Sweet. All right. Yeah, I'm definitely going to grab a PDF then. Absolutely. All right. So can you talk a little? So I'm a gamer. I'm an avid gamer. I play D&D twice a month. Been playing it for quite a while. So can you tell our viewers when did you get started gaming, and how did you get into it?
Oh gosh, sure. So I was maybe 5 years old. I was like a childhood D&D prodigy, which was a really stupid thing to waste your prodigy on. But there it is. My older brother, who's 9 years older than me, got into the high school D&D club, and so he came home with all these books and miniatures, and I just thought it was the coolest thing ever, and I made him teach me, and he very kindly taught me how to play, and so he went off to college, and then a bunch of his friends that were still in the area kept playing, and eventually around age 13, 14, my brother's friends were looking for a game master, and they tapped me because I was a really good game master by that age, because I'd been playing it throughout my childhood. And so, like, at age 14, I was getting shuttled to college campuses to run role playing games for the college kids at their gaming group, which was hilarious. And I just kept on playing. I played all the way through college, and then when I was running The Escapist, which was my video game journalism site I ran, when I was running The Escapist, we had a group. And then finally, like 2008, my wife said to me, have you ever thought maybe you should take all these cool things you've done and start a little company publishing some of them? And so I did, and I created this company called Autark, and we published our first game via Kickstarter in 2011. And then in 2018, I went full time with Autark, which was a terrible decision, fiscally speaking. It's tough to make money in the role playing game space. But creatively it was very fulfilling, and I've managed to be, by RPG standards, I've been mega successful, meaning that like I can pay my mortgage and keep my house afloat and so on, and do it for a living. So that's been gratifying.
That's fantastic. Absolutely. So you have you have two different games with two different rule systems.
Right.
So can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So the first rule system is called Adventurer, Conqueror, King system, or ACE. It's in its second edition, so we're on ACE 2. The idea that drove ACE was actually those old Conan paperback books. I know David saw them. The old Conan the Adventurer, Conan the Conqueror, that whole series of paperback books that was out in the 60s and 70s by Lance, where it traces Conan's rise from this wandering barbarian to the king of Aquilonia. And I thought, why can't you do that in Dungeons and Dragons? Like in Dungeons and Dragons, at first level, you're a wandering adventurer. And at 20th level, you're still a wandering adventurer. Now you're wandering the plains, you're wandering the 9 hells or whatever, but you're still a wandering adventurer. So I went all the way back to the oldest versions of Dungeons and Dragons, which did have rules for that, but they had been kind of forgotten and abandoned, and they had never been updated. And so I started tinkering with those and reworking them, and tinkering and reworking, until eventually I created this system called ACE. And what was very funny was, in the process of trying to create this game where you could run a kingdom, I ended up having to build an economic simulator. And that sounds silly, but if you think about it, you're like, okay, well, I'm playing this game, and I'm a king, and I want to raise an army. And so you say, oh, well, you can raise 10,000 troops. But then players are very creative, and so they say, okay, well, how many troops could I raise if I also want to enlist the first sons and not just the fathers in each household? And you're like, well, how many children are there in each household? And they're like, okay, and also, what if I go ahead and I want to like steal all the grain from about 20% of the peasants, so that then I can supply my army? How far could I feed my army? For how long can I campaign? And what if I want to raise taxes to hire mercenaries? And there's all these questions that come up when you're actually like trying to role play a king. And normal D&D can't answer them, right? Like it just had no answers. And so to answer them, I had to build this economic model. And so I released ACE 2 and I was so happy with myself. I'm like, at last, everyone will be able to be a king in their RPG. And the reaction was more or less like, this is so great. It's finally, I can be an adventurer with good economics and go shopping. And and it took about 5 years for people to get to the high levels to realize, they're like, oh, all this economic stuff is here, so I can run a kingdom. This is awesome, bro. You should really, you should have told people about this. And I'm like, it's in the name. It's Adventurer, Conqueror, King. It's not Adventurer, Shopper, Merchant. Anyway, so for ACE 2, I'm really making a bigger effort in the marketing to really emphasize the fact that the economics are there to help you conquer and rule kingdoms. It's not intended to be a shopping simulator. So that's ACE. Ascendant is my superhero game, and so Ascendant was inspired by these two 1980s games that were very, very, very good. One was called Phase Rip, or also the Marvel Supers, and the other was called MEGS, which is the Mayfair Exponential Game System, and it did DC Heroes. And Marvel was this really great, simple game that used a color-coded chart with percentile dice to resolve all actions. And then DC Heroes was this game that used logarithmic math to be able to fit Superman and Batman on the same scale of play. but it didn't fully implement the logarithmic math. It kind of fudged it. And so I had this quirky thought. I was like, what if I could design a game that uses completely logarithmic scaled math, so I can have ultra powerful heroes and street level heroes and everything in between, but I'm able to do it without fudging, but somehow make it simple enough that you can play it with percentile dice on a color coded table like Marvel. And then I started working on that, and I made it work, right? And that was kind of my masterpiece of game design, was making this very elegant mathematics work. And then I thought to myself, what if I do the art style like Image Comics with really hot chicks? And so I went to market with this game, and it's just absolutely hilarious because everyone else was doing anime style rules light narrative games, and I'm like, hold my beer. We're doing Image Comics graphic art with logarithmic math, but there's a color coded chart. It's going to be great, guys. And I was really surprised. It did really well, actually. It was a big hit for me. So,
and game nerds' minds just went.
No, totally. It was crazy. Yeah. So, I mean, I had some people. I had a lot of people tell me like, this is ridiculous. No one will ever play a game that uses this kind of logarithmic math. And other people tell me like, no one's ever going to play a game with these sort of sexy characters in it, et cetera, et cetera. But it found its audience. A lot of my success has just been swimming, taking the boat out into the waters where the other boats aren't.
Yeah. I get kind of sick of the people who say it can't be done while you're busy doing it.
Yeah, it's frustrating. But I mean, as I was saying earlier, it's really tough to make a living in this space, and I don't think the way to do it is to do what everyone else is doing, because you just end up in this very, very crowded market where you're competing against people with better funding, better marketing. So I sort of carved out a niche, and I'm happy in my niche, and I've made a living there, and it seems, and my audience likes what I do.
So I think you should talk a bit more about how people can find your stuff and recognize your company name or brand and so forth, because although some of our viewers may be very familiar with gaming, some may never have played a game before and will want to seek you out based on what you're talking about today.
Oh, sure. Okay. So my company name is Autarch, Autarch. And you can find the company's website is autarch.co, and our store is Autarch Emporium. But the easiest way to get our stuff is you can buy the books on Amazon. So you can just look for Adventure Conquer a King or Ascendant on Amazon. They're available there. The graphic novels available there. If you're a gamer, you can go to Drive-Thru RPG. All of my stuff is on Drive-Thru RPG. All my comics are on Drive-Thru Comics as well. And we do crowdfunding of all of our new books on Kickstarter. So if you search for Axe or Adventure Conquer a King or Ascendant or Autarch on any of those platforms, hopefully you will find us, unless the algorithm gods are angry that day or whatnot.
And I did put the link in the comments, so people can click that link and they can check you out.
Thank you.
Excellent. Did you have some graphics to throw up for people to see?
Yes, we did.
Oh, fantastic.
All right, so this is the Axe 2 Judges Journal. So Adventure Conquer King System Imperial Imprint. This is the Judges Journal. So this is our Dungeon Master's Guide. The art there on the top is by Michael Sirigos.
Okay.
So this is the book you buy if you want to run Axe 2 as a game master.
Oh,
sorry, someone was trying to call me. I apologize. I'm trying to figure out how to shut it down. All right, and so we got let's see here, and then the next one here.
Yeah, so this is our judges screen insert. So these are your judge screen that you sit when you're like a cool nerd, and you've got your DM screen in front of you, hiding your secret notes from the players.
All right.
So your DMs are called judges?
Yeah.
In the system? Okay.
Yeah, we call them judges because there's been this there's essentially two schools of thought of game mastering, which is sort of the storyteller versus judge school of thought, where the storyteller's focus is on weaving an entertaining narrative, and the judge's focus is on objectively judging this kind of fantasy world. And Axe, the way it's designed, leans into the latter because it grows into a war game. And when you grow, when you get to a war game, you're not telling a story, right? Like you're deciding the fates of kingdoms and whatnot. And so I wanted to emphasize that the game master in Axe is intended to be more of an objective judge.
Okay, very cool. So your system also kind of incorporates like possibly like Warhammer mechanics and stuff like that. And
exactly. That's how. Yeah, think about that. Imagine if you could play a role-playing game, and at a certain point you just take your role-playing game character and using the exact same mechanics, now you're playing Warhammer Fantasy Battles, and your character is a champion or general in the battle.
Okay,
and everything scales.
Fantastic.
And so you can scale. You could do, like, for instance, you could take your 14th level fighter and make him the equivalent of Alexander the Great commanding an army of 80,000 people on a tabletop battlefield. And you're like, oh, okay, we're gonna fight the Battle of Helm's Deep or whatever you want to do, and you can do it. And it's all the same system. It's the same spells. It's the same die rolls, etc.
I love how versatile that is. That you can switch from like your standard wandering party to, like you said, being a general commanding armies, and there's a system for that handles both of that. I love how versatile that is. That's fantastic.
Yeah. So what we did was we integrated command and control into the tabletop war game. So your charisma stat determines the number of subordinates you can control each round, and then your intelligence and wisdom stat determine how good you are at military strategy. And then your fighter levels determine your morale bonuses for the troops that are under your command, as well as how effective you're going to be in combat, obviously. And so you can end up with the ultimate sort of character in Axe is a high intelligence, high charisma, high level fighter, like an Alexander the Great, right? Who's both a charismatic genius as well as a skilled warrior, and then and everything in between. And it and we model everything so that if you're a 14th level character who, if you fought it out on 1-to-1 scale, could kill 20 orcs around, then when you go do the mass combat, you're going to find that your guy is able to kill about 20 orcs around. So since the high level characters can be the generals and the champions, they matter even in the very large scale battles, and you get really neat outcomes. And because it's all got this command and control element built in, the thief character can have a role, right, where he sneaks across the battlefield and assassinates the enemy general, and now they're paralyzed and they don't have a commander, and the troops are milling about, and you have an opportunity to inflict great casualties before they reorganize. So and then there's like a pre-game phase where you can use all the spells that your mages and sorcerers and whatnot know. So for instance, you can do crazy stuff like you're using hallucinatory terrain so that when the battlefield is set up, there's terrain that isn't on the map that is on the map, and where you've got troops hidden, and et cetera, et cetera. It's just super cool.
That is so freaking cool, man. I love that. And I apologize, David. We're getting like really super geeky, nerdy here. So.
I'm just sitting here learning.
I know you're not a gamer, so
it's one of the things. My daughter Jasmine, she goes off and does 2 very different D&D based games every week. Okay. I think on Thursdays and Saturdays she does it. She's probably getting ready to take off right now for one, and she'll be gone for hours doing this.
That's awesome.
And in my case, it's just with everything else I have running in my life, when do I have time?
Exactly.
So something had to give. So I never got into gaming because there were never enough hours in a day.
Yes, David is secretly a secret agent. He's the man of 1,000 tasks.
True. It's true. Yeah.
Well, the man of 1,000 tasks is probably accurate.
Yeah, he's non-official cover CIA agent deployed to Southeast Asia.
Yeah.
Jinky is the Russian honeypot,
Oh, that's awesome. I love it.
Jinky, say moose and squirrel.
All right. So we have your every gaming system has to have a monster manual.
That's right.
So
That's right. This is our monsters manual, and you can see like we really lean into sort of the sexy heroic aesthetic. You know, in fantasy, it's the sort of art you see with Frank Frazetta. You know, and then in comics, you know, it's the sort of art you see in, well, you know, David and I share the same taste in the sort of comic art, and that's kind of where we roll.
very, very cool.
Yes.
Yeah, so this is the core revised rule book. So we have our blade dancers attacking the sorcerer king in order to seize his throne. And what's fun about this is this is the second edition rule book. The first edition rule book shows this exact same scene a moment before this, so it's actually the camera angles from the other side, and they're all hidden behind the throne, about to jump out and attack.
Mm.
So we were able to make like the it's actually sequential art from book to book, which
Very,
sort of
very
pleased
cool.
my nerd soul deeply.
So I'm curious about the art on the inside of these. Are these like typically done with multiple artists, or do you have like just a few that you use, or?
Oh, I mean, David can tell you it's ended up being a pretty large art team. So what we did,
Okay.
so what happened was I did the Ascendant art, and it was a mix of artists. Meljoy San Juan was the lead artist. Jinky Coronado did a lot of the art, and a bunch of other folks as well. When it came time to then do Acts 2, I decided to do comic book style interior art for Acts 2 as well. And so I went back to David and worked with him. And so yeah, so if you were to see the interior of Acts 2, I guess I didn't send you any interior shots, but it's a lot of the Glass House team. Like Caesar Razik, for instance, did a ton of images in there, and he had previously done Red Sonja and some other really cool fantasy comic book style art.
All right, very cool. So obviously nothing but top-notch, exquisite art.
That's right. That's right. So so this is Ascendant. So that's our hero, American Eagle, who is America's he's our Superman or Captain America XP, and he is the the most powerful superhero on the planet. Although at the time the game starts, he's left Earth on a mission that no one really knows about, and so there's some chaos because he's gone, and bad things are happening.
Okay. So I'm curious, does your does your systems do they include like deities and demons and devils and stuff as well, or is it?
Oh yeah. So there is, in the monsters manual, there's a whole section on demons. We call them Keiko demons, evil demons. And there's actually a system for dynamically generating random like disgusting creatures from the outer darkness, which is good fun. So you can get, you can create your tentacled things and your ooze monsters and whatnot, and Lovecraftian horrors. And the setting has an entire, cosmology of, the different spheres of existence and the different gods. And you have your clerics that worship different gods that have different powers and everything you would expect like that. The main difference is Acts is set in a late Roman Empire vibe versus a medieval vibe. So it's equivalent to about the year 350 AD, whereas D&D has traditionally been more like 1400 AD with plate armored knights and whatnot. So we're more legionaries and cataphracts and philosophers and sages and stuff like that.
Okay. So is there anything like that in the Ascendant universe? I mean, and if so, how does that play with, ultra powerful superheroes?
Oh gosh. So Ascendant and Acts are actually in the same shared universe. They're in different spheres of existence within the same multiverse. And so yes, there are evil gods in the Ascendant universe that are attempting to come into our sphere of existence. And they do so through these ancient artifacts that enable them to pass through the holder of the artifact and sort of semi-possess that person. And so you have these folks are finding these artifacts in the world that trigger them to become ascendants somewhat artificially by infusing them of power from these extra dimensional entities. and there is a and those entities have their own enemies that are attempting to prevent this from happening.
Okay.
So there's the way the game is set up. There's a number of different pathways to ascension that are available, and because the narrative story is still being told, I haven't revealed all of the secrets yet. But one of the things that you do discover is that there's both this sort of extra dimensional presence, the entities, they call themselves the Court of Night, but there's also an extraterrestrial presence as well, and those are both different ways that ascension is happening, as well as human experiments. Out in Asia, they have like a Qigong program where people are able to, do your kind of cultivation fantasy, and by cultivation, they can make themselves emerge as superheroes. In India, they have a program called the Siddhi Protocols, where by studying yoga and other intense forms of ascetic mysticism, they're able to unlock their powers. In the United States, they're doing it with like performance-enhancing drugs. So it's multiple different paths to ascension, and that's deliberate because I wanted to allow players to have that, like, oh, I found Thor's hammer, or oh, I'm a mutant, or oh, I'm a super inventor. Like you want to have broad opportunity for people to create the sort of character they want to be.
That's so freaking cool.
When you proceeded to create the graphic novels for the Ascendant universe, were you basically adapting your game, or did you find a specific place within the game and said, I'm going to tell the rest of this story? How did you
yeah. So the story, the graphic novel was written simultaneously with the game. And what I actually did was I first sketched out the meta plot of everything that was happening. And then I decided to zoom in onto a particular element of the long form narrative, and it's the emergence of Manticore as the first supervillain, the emergence of American Eagle, the emergence of Stiletto as respectively sort of our two protagonists, and then the assembly of the Star-Spangled Squadron to deal with its first mission. And so that's the first graphic novel. And then what I did was to actually work out the fight scenes is I ran all the fight scenes in Ascendant using the RPG rules to make sure that everything that the characters did in the comic book would actually reflect how people playing the characters and using their powers in the game world would do it. And everything, so therefore there's no like American Eagle moves at the speed of plot. Like American Eagle moves at the speed that American Eagle moves, and he did the things that he did when we actually play tested it. And when I did the first the fights, so for instance, the fight where American Eagle fights Manticore in the graphic novel was literally in world. It's American Eagle's first time using his powers against a supervillain. So I got a player, it was his first time playing Ascendant, so he literally doesn't know how the game is working. And so the mistakes that American Eagle makes in the comic book are the mistakes that the player playing American Eagle made using American Eagle, not knowing how the game worked very well. And the way he beat him in the comic was actually the way that the player figured out how to beat the villain
that is
so
cool.
it was like this kind of like
cool
integrated multimedia effort that I think gives the graphic novel this incredible amount of verisimilitude. And I haven't gotten very many reviews, but one review I got was by Kursova magazine, and they were hilarious because they were like, character development, man. Holy crap, the battles are the best battles I've ever read in any graphic novel. Character development. It was very funny. So I don't know if I nailed everything in the comic, but I nailed the battles. I'll say that.
That's so cool. Yeah, that's very similar as to the way, like, for example, like the Dragonlance novels were written.
Yes,
they actually played through the system and then wrote the novels based on what happened. So
yep, that was the inspiration.
That's really, really cool. Yeah.
Well, there's this bizarre little side thing where Alex was kind enough to give me a chance to write one chapter of the graphic novel, and I haven't played the game. It's like, okay, he gave me an outline of where it had to go, and I ended up writing it, and I hope it worked out because it's in the graphic novel, and I appreciated the opportunity.
Yeah, that's right. David wrote the first chapter of Star Spangled Squadron, which was Manticore's emergence. And so what we did for that, David, was we actually fought. What I did was, before I handed you over, the general story we wanted to tell in that chapter, was we fought it out with a player playing just like we did, playing Manticore, to figure out how powerful he could be and what he could actually get done. And then I handed it over to you and said, look, this is broadly what happened. The challenge I faced, and I've struggled with this, is most of my exposure to comics has been this very decompressed storytelling, where essentially, 14 pages will pass and all that happens is like Superman gets a cup of coffee. And you know what I'm saying? Like the modern comics are so decompressed.
Oh, I
And
know.
I only had
know.
96 pages to tell this huge complex story, and I really struggled with it. And that Manticore chapter in particular, like, a lot had to happen in a short series of pages.
And I
And
looked at it that, oh, this is easy. This is 10 pages or whatever it was.
yep, yep.
And
And it's because you know how to do, and it's like you showed me the way Will Eisner was able to compress this incredible amount of story into a smaller number of pages. And what I finally came to understand is that, the genius of doing so is to use the comic medium the way the comic medium can be used, rather than trying to replicate the cinematic medium.
Yeah. And that's one of the complaints I have about screenwriters that have come to comics.
Right.
Nobody has taught them how to do it. So they come in and they're using final draft and not really giving an artist what he or she needs to do it properly. And so it's kind of a muddled mess, where I come from the background of reading, DC comics, where it was Superman doing something, and then the next caption is suddenly 4,000 years later, and and they sum it up in one panel of all this stuff that happened. It's like, okay, there's got to be a middle ground there, and
Absolutely.
And that middle ground was something that Will Eisner and others had been doing for a lot of years. So learned all the tricks along the way. So if somebody would insist that I do that, protracted storytelling thing, sure, I could do that. But my normal inclination is not to do that.
Right.
Did I send you the PDF of the Hot Wings project that
Yeah.
we're going to be kickstarting? So it's 32 pages, but I did it my way, and I figure a lot of folks out there would have done that as a 100-page graphic novel.
Right.
And so it's interesting to see the different ways people approach stories. But I love the fact that you're going for putting as much story into this as possible.
Yes, for sure.
And so reading your graphic novels, people are getting a really satisfying chunk of story.
Yeah, that was my goal. And here's the graphic novel I see got thrown up on screen here. So this is the patriotic cover. So you've got American Eagle. Then you have Dr. Quantum, who's our sort of force controller. So she's sort of like a nerdy Green Lantern. Then you have Stronghold, who is he's our bruiser. Then you have Stiletto, who's kind of like a sexy Wolverine. And then you've got Warp, who's the teleporter. And then finally you've got Aurora, whose power is that I'm a star. So she's a light controller. And there's some deliberate effort here. So one of the things that's funny is, if you look, the team is exactly 3 women and 3 men. You have 3 of the team are white, and then Stronghold is Hispanic, Dr. Quantum is Asian, and Warp is African American. And the idea is that I'm parodying the fact that nowadays, every comic has to have a diverse cast, but also it's a government team, and so they deliberately want to have a diverse group of team members to represent America being diverse. And so in the comic, like Aurora thinks she's on a reality TV show and hasn't quite figured out that she's actually joined the military. And so she keeps talking about how the casting director has done a great job creating such a diverse cast. But she's but she's upset that they've added Stiletto to the team because she feels like they already had, that the hot girl niche was already filled. So anyway, like,
That's
you cannot
amazing.
fill enough hot girl niches for a male audience.
Oh, okay. So this is an image of the Kickstarter exclusive edition of the books that I did. So this is black leather covers with gold leaf and whatnot.
Very nice.
Yeah. This is my new book that I'm kickstarting. So this Kickstarter goes live on Monday. It's before all others. And this is a source book for people that really love elves. So if you really just love playing elves, it's got like 8 custom character classes exclusive to elves, 30 monsters drawn from like fairy folklore, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
We'll be launching a Kickstarter on our end in a few days. So I'll make sure that I cross-reference yours in my updates. So
great. Yeah, we'll cross-promote for sure.
To your page.
That'd be great.
Now, we had just briefly talked about you wanting to create like a digital like D&D Beyond system. Do you have that mapped out at all, or is it just kind of like a pie in the sky type thing?
No, we do have it mapped out. There's a group of guys working on it. The first step was to get all of the rules and put them in and sort of turn them from text into Markdown format. So now we have all of the rules available in Markdown so that you can access them digitally. The next step is to create a bunch of automated generators within the rules. So that's taking some time. We have a character generator for Ascendant now, which is really cool.
Nice.
We have a treasure generator and a weather generator for Axe. We have the rules in Markdown. And then we have a virtual tabletop module that we've created for Foundry. And we have a virtual tabletop for the wargame component as well. So, but it's just me is the only full-time person on the team, and then a variety of freelancers and volunteers and contractors and whatnot. So, it's a slow muddle, but we're getting there.
Yeah. Okay. And when he talks about his freelance team, if you go back to that previous cover he was showing you, I mean, he had Will Conrad on the covers. So it's like he's going first class.
Yeah, I really am trying to work with the best talent I can afford. I should mention something about the cover. So when I was doing this cover, I did this in 20. I was working on the cover in 2020, and I said I just want to have a really feel good cover that everyone can feel great about as Americans. And I was like, what's like the symbol that everybody feels good about in America? It's like, I don't want to do the White House because there's so much, presidential elections. People get so worked up. It's like, let me do the Capitol building. Everybody loves the Capitol building. It's so beautiful. There's no controversy about the Capitol building. And I freaking released the comic almost coinciding with January 6th.
Oh,
and people were like, wow, edgy cover, Alex. And I'm like, it wasn't meant to be an edgy cover at all. It was just meant to make everybody love America and feel good.
I'm not trying to be an edge
uniter.
But people, no matter what the product is, people bring their own things to it.
They do.
So,
I just want to assure people the cover is not in any way. It's not about that stuff at all.
Alex is not an edgelord.
Some people, some people do say I am an edgelord, and I get that. Like, when you put a girl like this on your cover, like Stiletto on the cover of the comic, she's like a former BDSM dominatrix turned superhero, right? So there's like an edgelord element there that people are going to be like, I see what you did there. But the comics themselves don't have any particular political axe to grind, so as to speak. They're just
they are fun.
They're intended to be fun, and they're the villains are villainous and the heroes are heroic, and American Eagle is a married father of 2 who coaches Little League and works as a firefighter and lives in Freedom, Nebraska. And I'm like, everybody's like, so the plot twist is that he's evil, right? I'm like, no, the plot twist is that he's not evil because you expected him to be evil. He's just a good dude who loves his country and he's trying to do the right thing. And they're like, wow, that's so subversive.
I love it.
Because it is hard to believe that people can actually be, good people.
Yeah, he's just a good dude. Stiletto is not so good, but that's like the interplay between the two of them kind of drives some of the plot. So
everybody is so used to like the boys plot,
yeah,
where
exactly.
everybody's so used to that nowadays that it's refreshing to have just your typical superhero tropes and like the good wholesome, it's really refreshing to have that. So this is
When good people being good is considered subversive, then something has significantly changed in the world and in our markets.
Yeah, and so the comedy of it comes that American Eagle is essentially a Silver Age hero, and Stiletto is essentially an Iron Age anti-hero, and they're on the same team. And so like everybody gets up and introduces themselves to explain what their powers are, and Stiletto's like, my superpower is I'm really good at killing people. And American Eagle is like, we talked about this. She's like, all right, my superpower is I'm really good at hurting people.
Oh, that's fantastic. All right.
So we've taken up a good deal of your time. Anything else you want to talk about before we wrap?
No, I mean, thanks so much for having me on the show, and thank you so much for being such a wonderful business partner. And I literally could not have done this without working with Glasshouse. You've always been able to find an awesome team for me that fits within the budget I've got available, and have gone out of your way to be like a mentor when I've had struggles with the comic book medium, which you just don't see that very often. I've really appreciated it.
To be there, and I've liked that when I've needed you for something, you've always been on the other end of that phone. So thank you.
Yeah. David is definitely a full service agent.
Definitely.
Yeah. And I think in the future he's probably going to be working on Glasshouse psychiatric services as well.
I can see that. He's gonna have a little couch. It's like got comic books that you can read in the waiting room when you're waiting to come in.
They're all comics in the waiting room. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
Right. Well, thank you so much for taking time for us today, Alex. It was a pure pleasure talking to you. So
thanks so much for having me on. Really appreciate it, guys.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah. You have a great rest of your day.
You too.
Oh, he is a treat.
He is, absolutely.
What's wonderful is whether it's a project that we're working on for him or just getting on a call to talk about various things, I always learn something from Alex. So I have another friend also named Alex that is going to get in touch with him because he's a big gamer, and I think they will enjoy having a conversation together.
Fantastic.
So what's next? We have some. I wanted to show a little bit of editorial work, talking about colorists and the different ways that they would handle the same piece of artwork.
All right.
And we also, of course, have portfolio reviews.
Yes, we do. And I figured out the video. So
let's do that. Want to roll it?
It works.
Give it a try.
All right. Did you see that?
No, I did not. Nothing showed up.
Oh, well, okay. I'm assuming our viewers can see it. So
okay.
All right. Let's get to our first. So you want to do the editorial stuff first, right?
Yeah, let's do the editorial stuff first.
Okay.
Okay. So this is that aforementioned Hot Wings project. That this is line art by Dave Santana. And of course, so we had the, I better throw that adults only thing up there and
yes,
warn people about, the horrors of boobies or something. And, and here we go. So this is coloring from colorist A, let's say, and there's the other version, colorist A, and then there's colorist B. So very, very different interpretations of this stuff. And it a lot of it seems to come down to which way do you want to go? Because this is interesting artwork, but there's no backgrounds. You can be pretty much anywhere the colorist decides.
Mm-hmm.
So we have this, and it looks like, okay, this could be a battle in hell.
Yeah.
So giving us the oranges and reds and all that fiery effect. And so we end up with the brightness being the background. And so all the figures become much more subdued, darkened, grayed out, and so forth. So it's a legitimate way to go. The concern I would have with this one is the skin tones are so muddied down that the differences in the skin tones of the characters probably aren't enough. The reds aren't red enough, and so on.
Right. I was wondering if you approved this cover, because
No,
I'm like, man,
I
he's not gonna like those skin tones.
it's like, okay, this is a legitimate way to do it, but for this particular set of covers might not be the best way to go about. So I'm having a back and forth with the colorist, who's and both these folks are established professional colorists that I deliberately gave the same cover to, because I wanted to see what each of them would bring to the party.
Okay.
And then we would go from there. Maybe we would get great results from both and decide to use both versions as variants, because I knew there would be significant differences.
Yeah, that was a very painterly style, as
Yeah,
people
and
say.
we get in this, and this is very straightforward coloring, where I think the color choices on the wings and the figures and the hair are great, straightforward comic book color.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
yeah, nothing wrong with any of that. I have a little bit of concern that he kind of overdid it with the muscle tone on the red demon. I don't quite like how the torso looks, so that's a little bit of tweaking that I will probably do there. My bigger concern on this set of covers is that there was basically no thought to the background. It's like, we'll make it blue.
Right.
And it's just, it's not what it could be. This was a more interesting background. In fact, I'd be tempted to see what this background would look like on this.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
that might be something that I might play with. Okay, can I get that background file, and then let me try to merge it? Let me see what we get.
If you have layered files, yeah, that'll work
Yeah.
out great. If not, you're going to have to do a lot of cutting out.
Yeah. I always ask for layered files on my covers. When the other thing here was, this colorist colored the insides of the books, so he got the Batwing-like tones that we want in the Demon Lady's wings, where they aren't there here.
Right.
So again, this is a legitimate way to do it, and the wings have weight and a heaviness to them, like bat wings would have, as opposed to the angel wings. But I thought this is a very interesting way to go about this. Now, so in both cases, these aren't finished pieces. So we're going to go back to the colorists and say, okay, tweak this, adjust this, and it might go through a couple of passes because I still hold to, even though these are variant covers and will likely as not never make it onto a comic shop shelf unless comic retailers really want us to. I still tend to think covers need to pop and they need to be interesting enough so that potential readers would say, "Ooh, I want to see what's inside that book."
Right, exactly.
And this is very representative of what this series will feel like. So I think this is a good cover for that.
Yeah, and I also love that it's when you get into certain companies that predominantly do sexy heroines,
Yeah.
right? A lot of times the covers are just them there standing on the cover static in a sexy pose. And that's all you get. And this, like you always say, tells a story, and it's got movement, and it's a fantastic layout.
Yeah, and that's why I wanted artist Dave Santana on this, because when he's hitting on all cylinders, he gets exactly what I'm looking for, and so he comes at it with more of a classic, say, John Buscema type of straightforward action storytelling.
Right.
And so we get that here, and he understands this is a girly book, so he gives you the figures, but they're the most dramatic posed extended versions of those figures, so that you're getting as much a full body shot type stuff as you can.
Right.
And so also by elongating the figures like that, you get more of a J. Scott Campbell or Mark Silvestri type of vibe to it, which has for decades been a very popular look.
Mm-hmm.
So
Absolutely.
I think it works.
It
So
does.
so when this is finally solicited, it will look quite a bit different. I might even show the finished version in a future podcast, but we will see what the finished version of it looks like. So that's my little behind the scenes for today.
All right. Great information.
All right. So what do we have next? I believe a portfolio.
Yes, we do.
All right. So how much? I don't know how much we have here. All right. Let me pull it. Let me pull.
I think
this
there's
up.
like 5 pages.
Okay. So I got this from an artist that has been submitting to me on and off for a while now, and I tend to like what he gives me. This all turned out to be very solid stuff. This is the first time I'm getting a strong look at it. I always have little problems with the stuff I've seen from this particular artist. It's like the stuff that he submits is like 80% of the way there. I mean, this is okay. I didn't get a sense of movement here. You get the stocks that she's running through are kind of straight up like this. If she's racing through this, you would expect them to be back like this as she's hurtling forward. So I don't get enough of a sense of her movement that way, or enough sense that this could be coming out more behind her. So it just seems more static than it could be. So I get to this shot, and it's like, okay, it's clear that she's running. What it just seems odd to me that the size of the arms keep changing in relation to the size of the body as she goes. There are
Right.
some places like the bottom panel where the proportions seem to work. I look at the first couple of shots. I was like, okay, the arms don't seem to be connecting right to the body. Is that right arm too long? In panel 2, it's like, are the arms too small for the body in that shot? So stuff just doesn't seem to work. It's like the body suddenly, where the body seemed short on this page, I get to, okay, it's short in the first panel, and it's much longer, much more gangly in panel 2. But by the time we get into panel 4, the proportions seem more normal. So she seems to change proportions shot to shot. And that's a bit of a concern. I would prefer more consistency there.
Okay.
In terms of the storytelling, she's running, she falls forward, so of course she's on her back. It might have been more dramatic. She had fallen forward, she's struggling to get up, and we see her from that perspective trying to get up, and then the character in the last panel pulls her up. So that might have had a better movement to it, might have been more dramatic. It seemed to have lost opportunity. So in addition to the body proportions being somewhat off, I thought it could have been staged better than it is.
Yeah, like the third panel could have been like a worm's eye view of like her face and her arms, like you said, trying to get up, and that would have been more
trying to push up, and
get
behind her, kind of.
Yeah, it would have been more dramatic. So
okay, there's nothing inherently wrong with this page. Everything that's drawn here seems to work. But there's nothing on this page that gives me any sense of wow either. It's just another page. It's kind of there. There's nothing on the page that jumps out at me as being memorable. It tells the story in the most rudimentary way. I wish there was something else that it would do. A different angle for panel 3, maybe just something that would have given it a little more oomph.
Right. So I'm curious, David, do you ever look at a page and think, okay, this is okay, it's passable, but the colorist could really take this to the next level and make it something else?
Oh yeah.
Or do you just fully expect the line art to deliver all of that?
The answer is yes to both.
Okay.
I try to get each person to do his or her job to the best they're available to do in the time that they have. And there will be times when a page just didn't quite deliver, but there's no time to tweak it. So it's in the colorist's hands, and before the colorist starts performing his or her magic on it, I will say, can you try to do this with the page, whatever this might be, to give it that extra sense of oomph? And the better colorist will deliver, and it's like, oh, wow, yeah, now we're talking.
Gotcha.
And so it's great when that happens, but it doesn't always happen. Sometimes because of a colorist's time frame or ability level, you get what you're going to get, and that's the best you're going to get before the book has to go to press.
Right. Yep.
If there's the time to do better, I would always rather see better. All right. X-Men page that or a cover or whatever it might be, a generic shot of the characters just running toward us. Obviously this is a crammed together a shot because these characters really couldn't run at you and be this close together.
That was my first thought of like, they're going to trip over each other.
And And it's like sometimes you've got to think out this stuff a little more. So you have Cyclops running full tilt at us, so his left leg is kicked back so far that it looks like he's been amputated.
Right.
And so that means you've got what, 2.5 foot of leg behind him, and or else that foot is going to be up in another character's crotch.
Yeah, poor Colossus. Yeah, he's getting
yeah. And Cyclops may not appreciate that, or Colossus may not appreciate that. So it's different things to think about when staging these, because they're not just characters that you're drawing in that scene. They've got to be characters that are living and breathing on the page. You're bringing them to life. So even though we talked about with Alex about screenwriting or screen directing is different from comics, there are some things that you can carry over into this, like thinking out the staging. Can you really get that to work for a cover? Okay, I can see you getting by with this, but he's got it marked as a page 1. So I assume it's a sequential page where something's actually happening. And if it's not just not just a showcase page, not just a pinup page of the scenes, but is actually the first page of the story, then you would need to stage this a little different, because it's all pretty odd and fairly generic.
Yes, and Colossus, being the nice guy that he is, would just be like, "Please take foot out of a crotch, my friend. Please, not comfortable."
Yeah, and there's also the proportions thing here. Cyclops looks a little short. A heroic character is 8.5 to 9 heads high. He probably comes in a little short of that. And what is it, Marble Girl or whatever she's called? It's to his right, whoever that character.
Oh, Jean Grey, yeah.
Has the oddest proportions there. Very short, stocky legs and a short torso, and boobs that are sort of tucked up right under her neck. There's some things that could be better portrayed. So, the drawing, the technique that he's putting down, I like a lot. The way he renders the lines out of the black. You don't have to ink this stuff, because this is tight enough that you can go into Photoshop, adjust the levels, do a little cleanup, and your page is finished.
Yep, absolutely.
Do you have the check your email? I sent you some inks by this same fellow.
Let me see.
While you're looking at that, I'm going to look at this. So we have another. Okay, the scene continues. So those characters were all that scrunched together in that first page as the first page of the scene. So now they're separating as they come up against the Sentinels. And wait a minute here. Oh, I didn't even know that the Beast was in this scene. Did I miss him somewhere?
No, he wasn't in the first splash.
Right.
So
all right. So I'm a little confused. Oh well, we've got I guess Iceman is in here. I didn't see him back here either. All right, so this is a free for all. Yeah. I guess the Beast is trying to get away, but getting away from what? In the establishing shot in panel 1, he's not even in the shot. So you've got let's see, how do they have it here? Got the Sentinel, left hand, left fist forward, right going back. So I guess he's powering up and then moves like this and then fires the blast with his other hand. And so Beast is trying to escape, even though he wasn't in the establishing shot to escape from. So I'm kind of lost there. I'm not sure where this is taking place because I've been to New York. There's no place I can think of that has open, flat ground and buildings so far away on either side that you can have this scene taking place. So it just seems like I'm going to throw something kind of resembling buildings here and not have to give it an actual sense of place. Because New York, it's like square footage is at a premium. And so I don't know where all this premium is coming from.
All right. 1 second here, and the inks will be up.
Okay. The bottom panels here, there's as much going on as in the first couple of panels. Multiple characters attacking the Sentinel and pulling back to whatever's supposed to be happening, and then Wolverine and Colossus attacking, and something else going on. But it got so small, it seemed as though the artist didn't think about laying out the page and then just ran out of space.
Right.
Where are the dialogue balloons going to go? It seems like he gave up so much space to do the big panel 2 that he didn't allow the other panels any room whatsoever to breathe.
Right.
So I would question some of the thinking process behind the storytelling.
Yeah, almost like those last 4 panels are like an afterthought.
Yeah. They could have been a separate page all on their own unless he was working from a full script and told him to do this, in which case staging the first 2 panels differently might have been a better way to go so he wasn't crunched. He didn't include any script along with this, so I don't know how much or how little dialogue was in those pages, assuming there was a script. But the absence of having that information, I would just be led to wonder how much can fit. And I've blown up the page as large as I can on my screen here, so I'm looking at it larger than will be in a printed book.
Right.
So it's going to be smaller than I'm looking at it here, and so I worry about clarity and room for word balloons and so forth. Yet on the other hand, I study the finesse of the pencil work, and it's some of it's quite solid. I thought it was better on the previous page, but it's still quite solid. But
his rendering of the black spaces, of the blacks, is really nice.
Yeah. And so that he has under control. Getting consistency of proportions is a problem. Thinking about the panels more, about the sense of energy, about the consistency, about the sense of place need to be there and really aren't there in what we see here. Let's see, what do we got next? We got some inks.
Oh, it looks like we got some more pages. Well, I mean, you don't have to show them, but looks like there were some more pencil pages, I guess. We had more than 5, I guess.
I didn't realize there were more. Hold on here. Let me pull this up. Don't want to shortchange him. That's a cool shot. But to make that shot work, we needed a panel on the previous page setting it up that was larger than this. Because I completely missed that's what was going to happen.
He seems to like to have more of a large splash panel up top and then squeeze in smaller panels at the bottom. He seems to really like to do that.
Yeah. And which is the opposite of what some guys do, where they try to build toward their biggest panel on the bottom. But nothing wrong with that if he would at least leave enough space for stuff to happen and for dialogue to have the room that it's going to need on the rest of the page. So this page suffers from that. Also, his rendering kind of did him in panel 2, where he has that nice coming out of the blacks line rendering, but he's done it in such a way to make smoke look too solid.
Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely.
Let's see, what do we have? And we have a double page spread where there's at least 4 pages of material on that he's trying to squeeze into 2 pages. Okay, there can't be enough room for dialogue in any of this.
No.
Yeah. So an editor would look at this and say, no. Go back and as you're putting down the layouts, which of course the editor would say, submit the layouts to me first. But as you're putting down the layouts, draw in your word balloons where you think they're going to go. And let's make sure they're all going to fit.
Right.
Because some artists give no consideration to word balloons until you make them. And it's like, oh my God, I didn't realize.
There's got to be dialogue.
Yeah.
Or at least sound effects.
Yep. So I'm overwhelmed by how much he's trying to get in here. I understand some terrific artists like George Perez would put this much detail and this much going on, but either he was working closely with the writer like Marv Wolfman, and they would together know how much dialogue would need to go there, and dialogue would be written after the fact. Or if he were working for full script, he still understood that dialogue had to be placed.
Yeah, and George, of course, was a master of layouts and knew how to place multiple characters in a scene.
So this an editor would look at and say, this is just too much of a jumble where you're trying to do too much within 2 pages, and as a result, the power of what's happening in each shot is being lost. So it's kind of the opposite of what he was trying to do. He's trying to give us a lot of panels with a lot of power, but by making them so small, he eliminated all that power. All right.
Oh, and then we have another one.
Holy moly!
This is the last double splash.
Okay. Again, there's tons and tons of stuff to go on about. Some very stocky short characters here that look at Jean Grey and on the right side.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't really seem to work at all. Psylocke that I see toward the bottom left. Whoever it is in the center bottom, it's a no.
Rogue.
So a lot of body proportion problems. You straighten up Rogue, and she's 5 heads high.
Yep.
So I thought the only character that was supposed to be a short person in here was supposed to be Wolverine.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is just, I mean, to me, this is just pure chaos. Like, as a colorist, I would look at this and be like, what the F, man? Come on.
If you were given this, it's like you'd be struggling to give clarity to this.
Yes, the separation of this would be a nightmare.
Yeah. And so I could very well see most of the detail of this being lost as you trying to separate this into planes. It's like, okay, all these people, the people in the immediate foreground, those two, they're going to be reds. All right, the people in layer 2, they're all going to be yellows. People in layer 3 are going to be light blues, and then fuck everything else. It's going to be dark blue, and I'm done with it. and I could see that happening in an attempt to give us layers so we can visually clearly follow things happen as you go further in. Great. You'd have to do that, but that wouldn't be my preference. If an artist is going to put that much effort into it, put all that detail, I'd like it to mean something. And I understand trying to give us the fury and chaos of the scene, but it shouldn't be chaos for the reader or for the colorist.
Right.
Yeah. So that's the difference there.
Right.
All right. What do we have next?
So we have inks.
All right. Same artist.
Yeah.
Whoops.
Oh, sorry.
We both did it.
Okay, yeah. You bring it up. There we go.
That's where we get paid the big money.
Right.
All right. So this is the same artist. I had asked him to send me some pages where characters weren't hidden behind costumes and masks, because I wanted to see some genuine body language, gesture, real environments, whatever. So he sent these. And so I'm looking at them from that perspective, and it's like, okay, up shots, down shots. He's varying the camera some. He's kind of afraid to do a big face on any of this. There's a stiffness to everything. I don't get the feeling. All right, let's talk about. We'll start with the storytelling and then work our way out.
Okay.
Storytelling. I don't get the feeling that these characters live and breathe on the page. What it feels like is he has action figures on his desk, and he's posing the action figures like this, and I don't get a sense of any real movement, no real sense of natural gesture, even though he's got the hair moving in the one shot and the character's kind of gesturing. It's also stiff, so frozen. And it sometimes feels like characters are performing their action between the panels. She's just standing there in panel 1, and she's already over there with the cup and the coffee and whatever in panel 2. Okay, so we missed the movement to bend over and get the coffee and whatever. She's about to do it rather than doing it.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, finally, pouring the coffee in panel 3, that works. But it's a very stiff, again, action figure type of thing. And it's like, I've got my G.I. Joes set up, and I'm doing this. Not these are people moving through the house or apartment, living their lives. So the stiffness there that really needs to be worked through.
For me, it's got a really odd, like the facial expressions don't change, and the leg positions are just really, like you said, stiff and odd to me. So
yeah, and so nothing about it really feels genuine. And we know that from a technical perspective, at least from the pencils, the guy has a great sense of finish. He can do a wonderful finished pencil that can be darkened and look like inks. But that skill doesn't seem to carry over into the storytelling or in body language, facial expression, body proportions, that sort of thing. There are little things that he really ought to be looking out for. Characters aren't changing relative size in these panels, so it's all just kind of static. There's this weird thing in panel 3 where because the characters are wearing, panel 4, where the kissing characters are both wearing jackets, then you get the next panel and you've got this hand dangling down, but he did an overlap panel, not a separation, so it just seems a little disquieting and odd there, because it feels like this disembodied hand that's just kind of there.
Mm-hmm.
You've got the character. I don't understand the next 2 panels. I guess she's turned away from the guy, but on the very next panel, she's turned back toward the guy. I'm just a little lost. Where is that door? I'm
Right.
looking in the establishing shots. Where'd that door come from? Did I miss it?
Yeah, I don't see it.
Okay. If the door is going to be there, it needed to be in the establishing shot.
Right.
Yeah. So you got the character just standing there with his hands. Well, I guess one or both of them out on the counter, and again, a combination of stiffness of the character and the way that in ink he's chosen to render their leather jackets. It doesn't feel like leather. It almost comes off like metal piping or something, which only adds to the stiffness of the figure. So it could be a lot better than it is. All right, I get to the next page. Okay, I guess the buildings are all right. Nothing making me go, wow, great cityscape. Where last week we were looking at just some city shots by Jose Luis Garcia Lopez, and some of them were just a little third of a panel thing, but they really felt like life. And so not feeling it here. So we go from a splash to a double page. And I don't know if this is a writer's decision or the artist's decision to do this, but I'm not clear why this was a whole splash page and this was 2 pages.
Yeah, exactly. Not sure.
Is that flag hanging in an odd way?
Yeah, it is. Unless it's being blown by wind, that's not evident in any, of the other panels. It would be hanging down.
But also, I'm used to the stars being closer to the pole. It just seems backwards. I might be missing something.
Yeah, that I think it would be hung. Yeah, you're right. It would be hung. The stars would be on the pole, not the other way around. Yeah. Yep.
I'm trying to make sense of that tree. Anyway, it's a little odd. So we ended up with a splash, going to a double page spread, and now another splash. I'm all right. I'm kind of lost.
Yeah, and if you're lost, then it's.
And then we're on to another splash. Okay. Okay, I've seen enough. All right, so the storytelling is a problem. The stiffness is a problem. Expressiveness isn't all it ought to be. But probably the biggest thing that struck me was he went from having this excellent rendering technique with his pencils that looked absolutely complete. as I said, I could take those in Photoshop and in 3 minutes adjust what I have to adjust, and those pages are going to look inked, and we're ready to send it to the colorist. And I look at, he's gone to all the extra trouble to ink these, and all that skill, all that finesse present in his pencils is not there in his inks.
Right, right.
So I told him just for the 5 seconds I had to glance at these before I said I will review them today. I said, your own inking is doing your pencils no favors. Your pencils are much better than your inks. So he should really be focusing on that, because there's no reason for him to have to ink.
Right. Yeah,
Just
absolutely.
finesse those pencils in Photoshop and be done with it, and collect the full art rate, and you're good.
So, okay. So to correct the situation, to kind of show him how things would be done, my thoughts would be like, would you perhaps, for non-action pages, tell him to look at old romance comics by, say, like Ramita Sr. or Gene Colan,
Yeah.
to get that
yeah.
great
Ramita,
body movement down, and
yeah. Ramita Sr., Gene Colan's a good choice. John Buscema doing the romance comics, that was great. A lot of things done by Gil Kane, but also, as I said, pretty much anything drawn by Jose Luis Garcia Lopez is going to get you there, because the pages that I showed, I think it was last week, where it's characters in a bar and they're just talking, but the bar is alive, the characters are alive, and everything has the right amount of movement and life and nuance to it, which seem to be lacking in pages like we just looked at. And artists like this shouldn't feel like they're having to reinvent the wheel. Go look at the guys who are masters of this and learn from them.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And see what they do, and then try to do better in your way, not less than that.
Yeah, I think if there's any overarching theme to these reviews, it's study comics and look at comics that are pre-1990s.
Yes. Oh gosh. Yeah. So I think that pretty well does it. That wraps up this one. If things work out for next week, we're hoping to bring in Richard Boom, who has not only helped me with the Kickstarters that we have launched, like Stargrazers that just finished, but also has done a number of wonderful Kickstarter projects on his own, and he's helped me coordinate artists out of Europe. And I've been looking forward to having another long talk with Richard, our first one on camera like this.
Yeah, and Richard is a self-proclaimed mermaid or mummy lover, and one of the nicest guys I've ever
my
talked
wife
to.
did him a mermaid mummy, so
yeah,
both of those things work.
I think I colored that one for him. Yeah, and he's one of the nicest guys in comics. He really is just such a nice guy. So looking forward to talking to him.
So that should work out for next week, I believe, if we can get the timing difference to work out, because he's 6 hours later than we are.
Yes.
So I think we'll have more portfolio reviews and probably be talking about my next Kickstarter there as well.
All right. Fantastic. Well, thank you everybody for tuning in. Pleasure doing the show for you. And please remember to like, share, and comment. That helps out our algorithm and helps out the channel to grow. And have a fantastic rest of your day.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Bye.